So this is a problem with Twitch politics. You got Twitch brain, okay? So what's happened because of your Twitch brain is you hear all the heathenists on Twitch say, do what makes you feel good, man. The good is the good. Do the good. Whatever makes you feel good.
Have you ever watched my Twitch
What
channel?
about your duty and obligations? Do you have any of those? Do you just have a set of sequence of entitlements that you call rights with 0 duties and 0 rights?
Actually, Twitch chat also puts pressure on me. I think this is mentality that I came on my own, which was really hard because there's, like I said, so much pressure from everyone.
Yeah, but answer to my question. So my question is, do you just have a sequence of entitlements, or do you have any duties and obligations to anybody for anything ever?
Your question is very vague. Can you paraphrase it to
I
be more
don't know how it
specific?
could possibly be more precise. Do you know what a duty is?
Could you define that
No,
for
I'm
me?
just asking if you know what one is before I define it. Before we become too overly pedantic, I just want to make sure that you are going to tell me that you don't know what that word means first before I define it. Not that you're making me do it because you want to be overly pedantic.
English is my second language.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
doesn't
even
mean
know
that you
what
don't
pedant
understand
is.
what I'm saying.
What
I
is
don't know how
pedant?
this relates. She was talking about freedom of choice, and you said, well, you're legally allowed to do whatever you want. And then she was talking about socialization and being inculcated
because
to
what
have
did
certain
she-
habits. And you said, what's wrong with shame?
Yeah.
It's fine to be shamed, but she's saying that women aren't avoiding promiscuity because of the adverse effects that you think are inherent to promiscuity. It's because they don't want to be called a 304 or a slut. If you think there's
That's
negative...
not what she said.
That is what she's implying.
Well,
she's saying
hang on,
if there's
hang on.
actually
What she-
negative side effects
No.
to
We're
having a
talking
lot of
about
sex,
monogamy. I
those will
disagree.
manifest in themselves. It doesn't have to take the form of guys
Yeah.
calling her a slut. That's the sort
That's not
of
what we're talking about.
absence
That's
of
not
freedom
what
of
we're
choice. That is
talking
what she was
no,
saying.
No,
you're-
we were
what you're
talking
doing
about
is
She's about
monogamy.
girls being slut
You were
shamed.
talking
No,
about
we're talking about
monogamy, yeah.
monogamy and the expectation to have
She's saying
get married and have children.
society, she feels like it's not fair that society is casting stigma on social behaviors. That's what she's actually saying.
She's saying
I
it's
think she was
mutually
just
exclusive with freedom of
acknowledging.
choice, and you understood freedom of choice to mean legal rights, and she was saying no,
not just legal
judgment and
rights.
socialization and stigma.
That's
and
what
then
I'm
you
talking
said,
about
what's
is
wrong with
stigma.
Yeah.
Literally talking about stigma right this second. That's why I'm asking, do you feel like you only have a sequence of entitlements which are given, or do you feel like you have any duties and obligations
What is the
external to
duty?
those? A duty, an obligation.
To who?
Like a
to
child
what?
or a dog or a job.
Like if you're a
or
parent, do you
friends.
have a duty to feed your child if you're a parent?
I'm not a parent. You want me to imagine
If
what
you
it's
were,
like?
how would you feel if you ate breakfast this morning?
How would I feel if I ate breakfast?
Yeah.
Full?
Yeah, how would you feel bad if you didn't eat breakfast this morning?
I would require more minerals. That is correct.
Okay, great. So we know that you can do hypotheticals, so let's not be pedantic then. So,
I still don't know what pedantic is.
yeah, you don't know what it is, you don't know what pedantry is because English is your second language, are
That
you
is
sure?
correct.
Okay, well, let's move into it anyway. I'm just going to ask, and I'll use really small words. Do you have a duty? And if you don't know what the word duty means, when I say it in the context of feeding a child, I'll tell you.
Are you asking me to answer if I had a child, would I feed the child? And that's
Now,
your
do you have a
definition of
duty to feed the child, some obligation?
I would feed my child.
Do you have an obligation to feed your child?
I feel like this is a lot of semantics.
Legally, yes, you do have an
when you make an
obligation to feed
argument,
your
semantics
child.
are super important. So I'm just wondering, do you have an obligation to feed your child?
I would feed my child.
Do you have an obligation to do that, though?
Yes,
What
legally
does he
you have
want
an
from me?
obligation.
I don't understand.
You
Yeah.
don't understand
No.
that when I ask you one question and then you answer to a question I didn't ask you, that you
You're
don't understand
really
why I keep
confusing
repeating
me,
the question.
Andrew.
If I say, would you feed your child? And you say, yes, I'd feed my child, then that's an answer to that question. If I ask you if you have an obligation to feed your child and you say, I would feed my child, that's not answering if you think you have an obligation to do so.
I will feed my child,
Okay.
and that is the last
So
thing
you're
I'm
just
going to
not
say.
gonna answer
No, but
the
do you
question.
have
But
do you have
you would
a
feed your
duty?
child because you
do you have
feel
an obligation?
obligated.
Like because you have to, basically. It's you have
If
to
my
feed
child
your
is
kid.
hungry, I will feed him. Yes.
No, but do you have an obligation to feed your child?
Like, let's put it this way. Like, you could. Some guy wants to fly you out to France for $2 million, or your baby needs to eat, and you're like,
Wait,
well,
into the mic, please.
well, the baby, I don't have to feed the baby, it'll live, but I can go on this France trip. Like, some people would be like, you know what, fuck the baby, I'll hire a sitter to feed them. That's not my obligation right now. My obligation is like going to France and get this money. You know what I mean? So he's kind of saying like,
$538
Just one
donated
sec. Just one sec. Just one sec.
$199. Her very body embraces the duty to the child via the mammary glands.
That's
okay.
true.
Okay,
I think
Bona.
you should specify. Do you mean like a legal duty or a moral duty?
I just said obligation first.
Yeah. Do you mean legally or
Yeah,
morally?
well, that would be
or
first. I would need to figure out whether or not she even feels like she has any obligation, or doesn't actually know what the word obligation means. If
But
you don't actually
obligation
know
is
what the
subjective.
word,
There's
I
legal
want to ask you something
obligations.
else. If he pulls up the definition of obligation and reads it to you, will you answer the question then, or are you just going to still answer it the same way?
I will try my best.
Okay.
Do you want me to? I can Google obligation, right?
If that's what you want to do, Brian.
An act or course of action to which a person is morally or legally bound, a duty or commitment.
A duty.
Moral and legal.
Yeah.
So both.
Specify
There we go
legal or
again.
moral.
Right.
Specify for her which one.
A moral.
I feel
I
like
will
this is a
make
very
sure-
easy question.
Let's
to
just say
answer.
No,
moral.
it's not. If you were to ask me, are you obligated to be nice to the person next to you? I could say not
Okay.
necessarily.
Are you
But that's-
morally? Should you morally feed your child?
Yes.
Okay, good. So now back over to you. Do you have an obligation to feed your child?
I will make sure that my child is well
Are
fed.
you
No,
morally
just-
obliged to do so?
Answer the question, Myra. Did I get it right? Mira?
Mira?
Sorry. So I'm not doing it. I swear I'm not doing it intentionally. I'm like that
Yes.
brain dead.
I will answer yes.
You have a obligation to do so.
Yeah, but it's not in front of other people. It's because I care for the child.
Okay, but there is a duty there.
Okay.
Okay,
There
so now
is.
we've established you know what duty means. So do you have any of those in society, or no?
Will I feed anyone else
That's
in
not
the
what I'm
society?
asking. I'm asking if you have any duties in society now that you understand the context of what duty means, or is it all just entitlement?
I feel like I can make certain difference in life that would be helpful to people, but I don't have to.
Okay, so you don't have any duties or obligations to anybody else in society, just a sequence of entitlements?
I don't know what sequence of entitlement is.
So, like, let's take a right. Would you say a right's an entitlement?
Can you be more specific? Can you give me like
Yeah, like your right to free speech for a context. That's an entitlement. Would you say you're entitled to that?
no?
No, you're not entitled to it.
I don't think anyone entitled to anything.
Nobody's entitled to anything
Yes.
except your baby to get food.
Yeah, but even there, like it's all very subjective. Like I would take care of the baby and feed the baby because I care for the baby.
Mhm. But would you give a stigma towards people who didn't?
No,
Why?
because it's none of my business.
So if people weren't feeding their children and they were starving because they weren't feeding them, you wouldn't want a societal stigma against that.
I'm not there to judge. There are other people that can do that.
So do you think
It's their
the
job.
world then is going to be a better place or a worse place because you refuse to judge and allow us to societal stigma towards people who won't feed their children?
This reminds me of my childhood.
I need to ask, do y'all feel the same way?
Well, so a couple things. I feel like
I'm asking. I just want to finish this real
I'm
quick.
thinking, yes,
Yeah,
I'm thinking.
Is
I
the
could
world
get-
going to be a better or a worse place by you refusing to allow a stigma towards people who won't feed their own children?
So I think that the reason why this comparison doesn't work is because in the first case, the life of a child that is not able, I'm assuming, to feed himself or herself is a danger. And the second one, you're judging someone else's personal/sexual life.
I don't understand. Why wouldn't that work? We're talking about a stigma towards a behavior that we don't like to see the benefits in society due to the stigma.
Because like I said, the first one, someone's life depends on it.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that technically is not capable of feeding themselves. And the second case, it's...
What are you talking about?
I
You're not
have like a great
affecting
example.
anyone's
I'd love
health.
to ask her that maybe it could put it more specifically, like as an example
Okay.
and not so much as a statement. So here we go. When I was a kid, my dad used to like beat the living fucking shit out of me for like 15 years. And one day, and I sang my entire life growing up. One day I was singing. I come outside. My neighbor's like, "Oh my God, you have such a lovely voice. Like, you're such a good singer. Like, never stop singing." And I feel really good, feel really great. And then 10 seconds later, I realized, wait, if she can hear me singing, she can definitely hear when I'm like screaming bloody murder for help. And no one's helping. And so I think in this, what his question could go towards this: if you were my neighbor, would have you felt obligated to call the police
do you have a
and
duty to do
CVS?
so?
Or would you have said, that's none of my business, I'm not going to get into that.
Actually, that's
Thank
really
you. This
that's a
was
good framing.
Yes, that is.
That was
Thank you
good
for
framing.
clarifying it. So I think I should have mentioned, maybe I did, but briefly, is that as long as nobody getting hurt, if no one's health or life is in danger, do what you please. Do not let others influence your life.